Good morning again. Thank you for joining us for our daily press briefing. As you can see, I am joined by Yanis Exarchos, who is the CEO of OBS, Olympic Broadcasting Services, responsible for sending the games around the world to hundreds of millions, even billions of people. So we'll come to a presentation by Yanis in a minute about broadcasting technology and so on. Let me just give you a couple of very quick usual messages. President of the IOC is actually in the mountains today. He's at Zhangjiakou and Yanqing. He's at women's snowboard halfpipe final this morning, men's alpine combined slalom segment this afternoon, and then freestyle skiing mixed aerials at Zhangjiakou. And a couple of very quick entrees for tasters on broadcasting. As I keep telling you, Timo will be here next week on Wednesday to give you the kind of fuller details. But I'm told that in China, following the fourth day of competition, Beijing 2022 has already become the most viewed Olympic Winter Games ever in China. And have a little figure from the US, NBC reporting that the Beijing Olympics on Peacock, which is their digital channel, has delivered its best ever 6-day usage period. So hopefully the broadcasters continue to be happy. Okay, let me pass over now to my colleague Zhao Weidong, and he will introduce his guest as well, or the one we have, Huang Chun, I think. But over to you very quickly, Mr. Zhao.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to see you all today here. Just now, Mark introduced that online with us today is still Mr. Huang Chun, the Deputy Director General of the Office of Pandemic Prevention and Control of Beijing 2022. Our focus today is broadcasting. I'm sure you all remember that in 1956, in Cortina d'Ampezzo, the 7th Olympic Winter Games was hosted, which was first broadcast on TV for the first time. Ever since then, with the development of the broadcasting technologies through the TV screens and the multimedia platforms, countless stories on the field of play was taken to tens of thousands of households across the world, and we're very happy to see that in 2026, the Olympic Winter Games will again be hosted in Cortina d'Ampezzo. And just like the past few days, we still saw such stories on the screen, including Claudia Pichstein from Germany, who has competed in 8 games in her 40s. He's still showing us how passion defeats time. And also the athlete from Canada, Max Parrott, who defeated cancer, came back to the field of play and showing how much he was enjoying the competition. And also the young Chinese silver medalist Su Yiming was saying how happy he was to compete with top snowboarders. And also, we all remember the smile of the Norwegian curling couple, Kristin Skasling and Magnus Nijolgoten, after the completed in their competitions. Such touching stories happen every day, where the coldness of snow and ice collide with the warmth of human emotions every day, and that is the power of Olympics. And I sincerely wish all athletes to enjoy the competition and have fun while going beyond themselves in the field of play. Now I'd like to brief you on the latest information. First, about the competition. Yesterday, 13 events was held in 9 competition venues with 6 gold, and today 12 events will be held in 9 competition venues with 8 gold to be expected. About the pandemic control and prevention, between midnight to 23:59 on the 9th of February, we had 61 inbound participants, including 32 athletes and team officials and 29 other stakeholders. 6 were tested positive after confirmatory tests, including 4 athletes and team officials and 2 other stakeholders. And during the same period, A total of 71,516 PCR tests were conducted within the closed loop, including 6,664 athletes and team officials and 64,856 for other stakeholders, with 3 positive cases from the athletes and team officials. And all participants and the staff of Beijing 2022 were subject to closed loop management with total isolation with the public. And finally, weather. Weather today in the competition zones is mainly clear to cloudy with a high of 9 degree and a low of 0 degree in Beijing, and the mountaintop gusts in Yanqing around noon of 10 to 12 meters per second. And weather in Zhangjiakou is cloudy and sunny. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zhao. And as we always do, we have Mr. Huang standing by for any COVID questions later on. But let's now go to Yanis Exarchos to give us an overview of some of the broadcasting technology and innovations here at these games, which are pretty impressive, I think. Yanis.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you very much, Wei Dong. It's a real pleasure to be meeting with all of you colleagues today and share with you a few of the things we have been doing as broadcast community to bring the games to as many people around the world, especially younger people, leveraging all new technologies. I would actually like to start with something that Mark mentioned. Even though TIMO and ITMS are going to be presenting next week some findings from the measurement from around the world, it's still early days. However, he mentioned 2 things. First, in China, the games are already after the 4th day the most viewed Winter Olympic Games ever, Olympic Winter Games ever. And also that in the United States, Peacock, the over-the-top, the streaming platform of NBC Universal, has had its best ever 6-day usage. That on top of the fact that NBC has been dominating also every primetime night since on traditional television. Why do I mention these things? Because these showcase the shift in the way content is being consumed, and of course the Olympics are being consumed. The Chinese broadcaster, probably the largest broadcaster in the world, is no longer called CCTV, China Central Television. It's called China Media Group, and that goes to reflect that its mission and operation is much wider. It's leveraging all different types of distribution and consumption of content. 4 years ago, the big platform of NBC Universal Peacock did not exist. So all these seismic changes that take place in our world really inform the work that we do in producing the games and in providing content to our broadcasters. Even though we have been through this difficult period of pandemic, our commitment to our broadcasters has been firm to deliver the most innovative games ever, to go ahead with most of the innovations we had in mind, despite of the limitations that the pandemic was creating on the operational front. So this is the first winter edition of the games that we fully produce natively in UHD HDR, in 4K with HDR. We do a significant amount of content also on 8K, and those of you walking in the lobby, you may watch the impact that 8K has on this huge screen that we have. On the level of quantity of content, we will be delivering to our rights-holding broadcasters more than 6,000 hours of content. As you probably know, the competition itself is less than 1,000 hours. So all this additional content is really content that's geared towards feeding the needs of digital broadcasting. Those are alternative shots, alternative ways of producing for different types of media and platform, telling stories of the athletes behind the scenes, producing features of the athletes, interviews with the athletes, all these things that make the narrative, the storytelling of the Olympic Games and the Olympic athletes different through digital media. In Tokyo, as you recall, we produced more than 10,000 hours. We touched actually 11,000 hours, and I must say that 6,000 hours for a winter edition of the Games is really a very high number. It's, as I said, 6 times more than what the total duration of the competition is. In addition to that, for those of you following the coverage, you will see that we have introduced a number of data-driven innovations. You will see that in every single coverage, there are a number of new elements of measurements, data information that help people understand better what it takes to perform at this level. Many of them in real time, many of them in collaboration with our partner, Omega. We have been working for years with them to develop all these new solutions. You will see that we have introduced 3D replace, the famous matrix effect, across every single sport. So in most winter sports, this has never been used before. We use virtual analysis in a number of sports, again, to introduce more, and I would say more the casual viewers, those who are do not have such an intimate knowledge of the sports and understand how the sports work. I must underline that here in China, as was to a very big extent also in Japan, we benefit from the fact that we are dealing with an environment which is very advanced on the technology front. China is probably one of the most mature countries in terms of usage of 5G. In Tokyo, we tested 2 or 3 cameras operating in 5G in the opening ceremonies. Here, across the different sports, we will have more than 20. So that shows you the very, very rapid adoption of new technologies. I would also like to particularly highlight not just what we produce and what we show, but how we do that. And there we have been talking many times about the adoption of cloud-based technologies. Why is this important? Because I know that cloud is a very cloudy term. Why is this important? Because essentially it allows to produce remotely, it allows an easy transmission of signals and do a lot of the things that we do in our job without needing to be present in the country of hosting the games. In Beijing, we have 32% less physical presence of broadcasters, which is enabled primarily by using virtual and cloud-based workflows. 32% less compared to Pyeongchang. The amount of content that's being produced, it's much, much bigger. We have 4 times more connectivity going out of the IBC than we had in Pyeongchang, which reflects the amount of content. But this now can be done without needing to transport so many people, so much equipment, has so much operation in the host city. Huge benefit for the sustainability of the games, for the host countries and broadcasters themselves. Also, you know that in Tokyo we introduced a number of initiatives that have to do with remote fan engagement, especially helping the athletes feel that they are surrounded by an international audience and also connect with their friends and families. This proved to be one of the big successes of Tokyo. Athletes absolutely embraced it and loved it. So in Tokyo, we did it for a few sports. We had technical limitations. Here, we have none. We do it across all sports. We give this opportunity to as many athletes as we can. As we speak, we are already preparing for 650 such moments for athletes. There will be many more. And we have delivered already more than 70 on the 4th day of the Games. And these capture some of the most emotional moments of the Games. This has to do with the side of broadcasting the games for our rights-holding broadcasters. Let's move a little bit to what we do on our own digital platforms. Again, you may have heard that as part of our ongoing digital strategy of the IOC, we have consolidated all Olympic handles on social media, and we have consolidated all our own platforms under the banner of Olympics.com. And here, Olympics.com is delivering the international experience for the Games. It does not carry the signals of the Games. This is with our rights-holding broadcasters. But it is the destination for people to know what is happening when it's happening with news, live blogs, story about the athletes, and so on. As of yesterday, this platform has already surpassed the unique users of the total duration of the Games of Pyeongchang. We have 45 million unique users. It's more than we had in Pyeongchang, without having on the platform the host country, unlike what was the case in Pyeongchang, because this is being addressed by the website of the organizing committee. Top countries in terms of visibility are the United States, Japan, Canada, Russia, and Korea. We are very satisfied with how it's going. It will for sure surpass our targets and our expectations, again, without counting the amount of people in the host country. On the social media front, which is another huge area of attention, we have until yesterday a total of 2 billion engagements across all the social media handles, the Olympic social media handles. And since the start of the Games, we have added 5 million new followers. In the duration of the Games of Tokyo, we added 10. We need to understand that the impact of a winter edition of the Games is not the same as the summer edition because of the number of countries interest and number of countries participating. So these are numbers that really satisfy us very, very much. I would particularly like to highlight the effort that we're doing specifically in China, obvious, a very, very important destination for us digitally, where we do dedicated content. We're using most of the digital platforms of China, which prove extremely popular with the content that we serve. The video that we did for the Chinese New Year, I think, was by far the most consumed and viewed video of any sports entity in China during those days. And I would like here to highlight that most of the traffic is also happening on platforms which are very, very much geared towards the younger generation, especially Gen Z. And I would like to single out here TikTok and Douyin, who seem to be driving most of the traffic on social media of the Olympic conversation. I will stop here, and I would be very, very happy to take any questions or clarify any points.
Thank you very much. As ever, we will take all questions on all subjects, but let's hopefully start with a few on this topic, and then we'll move on. But yeah, gentlemen there after that. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a reporter from China Global Television Network, that's CGTN, from China Media Group. My question is, on February 5th, and in the press conference on the cooperation on the opening ceremony, you cooperation with the General Director of the opening ceremony, Mr. Zhang Yimou, you commented on his performance and a new cooperation and coordination for this ceremony. And the question now is, how do you evaluate the cooperation now for the whole broadcasting service during the Olympic Games, especially the Chinese stakeholders and including the China Media Group? Thank you.
Sorry, Jens, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, it's always a great opportunity whenever I can speak for our collaboration with Zhang Yimou. This is one of the happiest collaborations that OBS has ever had. Those are always complicated collaborations with the creative teams of the opening ceremony, but if I go back to history, probably this has been one of the most successful ones. There have been full alignment of the vision. There has been full alignment about the execution, about the approach. I think that Yimou himself was pretty vocal in saying that he was very satisfied. We're even happier that we have already engaged and we're planning for the closing ceremony. So this is an ongoing collaboration, and we will try to maximize the effects and the opportunities that technology is providing to us. You're correct in noting that the excellent collaboration with the opening ceremony team was not a single-out phenomenon. We are capable and we are able of delivering all these things in Beijing, despite the pandemic, despite the closed loop, because we have had for many years such a close and excellent collaboration with the organizing committee, especially on the level of infrastructure. We all, I think, work and share this building and its facilities. Our colleagues from press can see the quality, but it's the same with us. This facility, the facility that we have in the mountains, are probably the best we have ever had in a winter edition of the Games. In every single venue, we have excellent facilities. We have very reliable 5G connectivity. We have, details like great platforms, great commentary positions. This may sound as details, They are super important for us to be able to deliver what we do and focus on doing the best possible coverage. This is not a foregone conclusion. We have been in many places which are mature in terms of venues for Winter Games, where things were not as ready or not as reliable as we have here. So the infrastructure that we have is top-notch. The commitments that we had for unfiltered internet, I think you're also experiencing that, which for us is very important to use all these tools that we use to do our job, have been working flawlessly. Very, very important that we have to struggle with that. I hold every day briefings with all the broadcasters. I think the only technology issue that was brought was, I think, the Wi-Fi in one hotel. I don't recall any games where there were no technology issues. So all these things may sound as details, but it's what allows us to do the job that we do unhindered. So take my hat off, and I thank the organizing committee for the efforts they are doing to facilitate our work.
Thank you very much. Yeah, let's take the guy in the yellow sweatshirt. Yeah, and then we'll come across.
Bonjour, Emmanuel Pionnier from AFP. Question for you, Mark. Tuesday night, the figure skating medal ceremony was postponed. Yesterday, you told us that there were some legal issues. Tonight, we had some reports saying that it was the doping case involving Kamila Valieva. What kind of information do you have? Can you confirm those reports? And what can you share? Thanks.
Yeah, I'm obviously, as you can imagine, I'm not going to comment on all sorts of speculation that I have also seen overnight, and that speculation will continue. As I said, as you said, we had a situation arrive yesterday at short notice, has legal implications, and I'm not, and I hope you would appreciate, I'm not from the podium of a press conference going to comment on a legal case because it wouldn't be appropriate. On the wider issue, you said a potential doping case, and I think that's complete speculation. But in a general point, what I would remind you is that very much that the IOC delegated both testing, management, and sanctioning in doping cases to ITA and CAS to avoid even the appearance of a conflict of interest. So I won't be having anything more to say on that. You can ask me many, many questions, but it's an active legal case, and I would refer you to other partners. Yeah, lady from the BBC, I think.
Hi, Mark. I appreciate it's a legal issue, and I know you want to resolve it, but I just wondered, are you able to give us any update on who is currently handling this matter and any time frame on when we might get a decision in this, given the implications? And secondly, I wondered, do you foresee a scenario where you might say there's no medal ceremony in this event during the Games because of the ongoing matter?
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but obviously even if I comment on who is actually handling this matter, I can talk abstractly about responsibilities, but even if I comment on who is handling this matter, it tells you what kind of matter it might be. So I'm not going to. There's a legal issue going on. I can't say anything more than that. And as for the other question about the award ceremony, at the moment it's speculation. I can't comment. I think we have to wait. Sorry, we have to wait with patience for this case to find its way to some kind of conclusion. I go to Reuters, who I think probably Carolus is going to ask me the same question, but hopefully something slightly different.
Carlos Grumer from Reuters. Thanks, Mike. Do you feel that the other athletes in this case, the Japanese and the Americans, are being treated with respect, given that for 4 days they've been waiting for a result, and the only thing we're hearing is a legal matter? And also, do you feel that there is a need for transparency in this case so that other athletes know where they stand in that competition? And if I may, a short one on Belarus. Do you feel you've done enough on Belarus, given that we've had another athlete who escaped the country after she was forced, a 17-year-old who was forced to stop competing, that Belarus is here with its flag and with its emblem and with an entire team? Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Yeah, I mean, obviously we ask for and hope for the patience and understanding of all the athletes involved here, but it is a legal case. I am bound by that legal case as you are, and I'm unable to say anything more. On the Belarusian case, which if we're talking about the same one, is a case before the Games, which I understand was initially a disciplinary action between the NOC, the National Federation and the athletes for some breach. That has been raised. At the moment, it's purely a issue between them and FIS. If FIS want to look into it further, then they obviously will do. We've reiterated our call to the NOC and all IFs to make sure that Belarusian athletes can compete safely without any discrimination. And you will have seen, and I won't go through them, but I'll remind those who may want to find them on our website, the actions we've already taken against the Belarusian NOC, the most important of which probably, I think, was that we suspended all financial payments to the NOC of Belarus, with the exception of payments related to athletes, scholarships, and the preparation of the Belarusian team for participation in the Games. So we have been taking action. We continue to take action. Those measures remain in place. But this issue, which was outside of the Games, in the first instance needs to be resolved, if it can be resolved, between the skier and the National Federation, and then eventually with the International Federation. Yeah, gentleman there.
Thanks. Question from Xinhua. I will ask in Chinese.
We all know that winter sports are dangerous and some athletes got injured. So my question is, given the precondition of pandemic control, how do we provide first aid to the athletes? Mark, maybe we can invite Mr. Huang Chun to take that question first. Okay, thank you for paying attention to the medical rescue work during the Games. We all know that winter sports are risky and confrontational and quite competitive. So in such situations, the probability of athletes getting injured is also higher, sometimes with trauma, fracture of bones, or other more severe accidents, even death in some cases. So because of such features, we do need a team of very professional and high-level medical experts for which we have made full preparations for. So in all three zones, in the three villages, we have polyclinics. And besides that, we have 138 medical stations, including those in the venues and those for the athletes. And also in the venues, we have 98 ambulances so that we can transfer athletes to hospitals when needed. And in terms of the selection of medical experts or medical professionals, we recruited medical professionals from big hospitals in Beijing and Hebei province. And in terms of the equipment and facilities in the polyclinics and medical stations, we introduced all the equipments we introduced are high-level medical equipments that were certified by international organizations. And so far, we did have athletes who were injured. And once that happened, we will immediately confirm with their team doctor and then conduct rescue and assistance on site immediately. And if we need to transfer the athlete, we will do that first by transferring them to the ambulance. And then within the closed loop, we have 41 designated medical institutions. And the fastest one can be done within 5 minutes. And the longest one takes only 27 minutes.
If it's in alpine ski in Zhangjiakou, and we have prepared 2 helicopters for the transfer of the injured athletes. So up to now, we can see that from yesterday, we see a total injury of 84 athletes, which are all minor cases. We have introduced timely and effective first aid to these athletes, and all are in very stable condition now. And this has been very effective in guarantee the smooth operation of the competitions. So up to now, we can see that the medical service is going on smoothly and effectively. We sincerely hope that all the athletes can protect themselves very well at the same time of competing in the venues. I would like to add something. So athletes getting injured is, of course, an issue of concern at all Olympic Games. Mr. Huang Chun just now have shared with you some of the information. I have a couple of points to add. First of all, if we look at the venues and the competition courses, and all these are being certified by the IOC. First of all, if there should be any case of injury, we emphasize the immediate treatment on site. And then there will be a coordination mechanism if it is necessary for the athlete to be transferred to a clinic or a hospital. We do have a green channel for the transfer of injured athletes, and we also have a whole team of medical experts. In our dedicated hospitals, we have medical professionals on the site, and they operate 24 hours on different shifts. And 10 of the medical experts are academicians. A new Super G athlete, female athlete a couple of days ago posted on social media expressing her gratitude to the medical service on site. So it is our joint efforts that have made all these possible. Thank you.
Yeah, gentlemen, someone's already taken the podium, so yes, sir.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah, please do.
I understand that the investigation of this situation with the awards for the team figure skating, that's being handled by someone else, and that you don't have any information because it's a legal issue. I'm wondering if this matter does wind up involving Russian athletes, whether the IOC is taking any steps to reevaluate the broader decision to allow Russia to compete here at these games under the provisions that were created. Is there going to be any reevaluation of that larger decision?
Quite a lot of speculation in that question, so I'm not actually going to go into if, then what, if, then if. So I can't answer.
So there's no preliminary work going on to look at that question?
I can't add to anything I've said at this stage because it might confirm or not confirm the story you have. Next gentleman.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. I'm Marcus Moore with ABC News. Thank you for taking my question. I have a couple for you. First, in terms of in a situation where there's an investigation into whether or not drugs were used, who is accountable for making sure the athletes who are competing are within the rules? Is it up to the countries themselves or the other organizations that you mentioned? And beyond that, in terms of the athletes and the world waiting for when the ceremony will happen, how much longer will the athletes and everyone watching have to wait?
On the second one, it depends on the legal process, as I've already explained, and hopefully I would imagine everyone is trying to work as quickly as they can for everyone involved. We understand, particularly the athletes involved, that they want to see this come to a good outcome. So we are working, or the people involved are working very, very quickly. In terms of your general question, all I would say is that generally speaking, there's a rule of strict liability for athletes in terms of if you're asking for a general question about drugs, but I would ask you to direct your question to those questions, the general questions about doping and responsibility to the ITA and to WADA, particularly in this case. As I say, we took the decision some few years ago to make sure that the investigation, testing, and sanctioning were handled by independent organizations, independent of the IOC. So best to direct those questions to them, I may suggest. Yep, sir.
Chair, I'm from CMG. My question is to Mr. Zhao Weidong. Shogang was resettled to another place because we were trying to deal with the air pollution problem starting from 2008, and now Shogang is turned into a competition venue. There is a cooling tower in the Shogang premise just next to the Big Air. So can you share with us more information on that? Another question is to Yanis. Just now you mentioned CMG has been having a very good cooperation with OBS in covering the games. We introduced 4K coverage and broadcasting and some 8K feeds and signals. So could you say something more about the cooperation between OBS and CMG? Thank you. I would like to take the first question. Then I would like to invite Yanis to answer the second question. I think you must have been following closely the article on social media. I'm following that as well. That article was talking about the cooling tower of a steel maker, which says that the cooling tower could be a nuclear facility. That is absolutely ridiculous. Netizens from all countries commented and was doing some science literacy work. I'm very grateful for that. The Big Air competition venue is being located within an industrial premise. Shogang used to be a steel maker, and it is an industrial area and upgraded into an Olympic venue. And the Big Air competition venue will be a permanent one. In previous competitions at the Winter Olympics, the Big Air usually was dismantled after the competition, but this one at Shogang, the Big Air, will be a permanent one. Another piece of information I would like to share with you is that the organizing committee of Beijing 2022 is having its headquarters in the Shogang premise. In the past few years, my colleagues and I, we were working day and night in that premise, and President Bach from IOC visited our headquarters multiple times, and he has always been saying that this is a good example of how we can use industrial legacy and put it into better use and integrate with the overall city planning and the regeneration of industrial areas. And I've noticed that in a couple of international medias, including Reuters and Economist, they have both covered the story of how Shogang was turned from industrial area into a culture, sports and entertainment area, and they all say very highly about this practice in Beijing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy whenever I speak about our relationship with CMG, which is not new. It goes back actually all the way to the Games of 2004 in Athens. That was the first time that the Olympic host broadcaster invited CCTV to participate in the coverage of some sport in the Olympic Games. It was at the time modern pentathlon and table tennis. The collaboration was excellent. I think it was the first international production that CCTV had participated in. Today, we're talking about an entirely different level. This collaboration has expanded so much. We have been using CMG and CMG production crews in some of the most complex productions that we do, both in the summer and the winter editions of the games. And I must say that here in Beijing, it goes on a new level, especially with the collaboration in the production on 8K that we know is a format for the future. Actually, this is a three-party collaboration between OBS, CMG, and the Japanese public broadcaster NHK. Both CMG and NHK are now among leading broadcasters in exploring new technologies, future technology in broadcasting, and we're very, very excited in collaborating with them. Allow me also to say that here in the Games of Beijing, 35% of the staff working for OBS, of the 4,000 people that we have to cover these games, come from China. And this is precisely because the maturity of this country in terms of technology, in terms of broadcasting techniques, has progressed so much. Many of them are human legacy from the games of 2008. Many more are young, fantastic, enthusiastic professionals, very switched on all things digital, and we are very, very happy to have them in our operation. I'm sure many of them will continue with us in the future editions of the games.
Thank you very much, Yanis. Yes, please, in the front there.
Good morning, Vanessa Lee with CTV Canadian Television. Mark, is it common for athletes to be allowed to compete if they have tested positive for a banned substance ahead of the games?
It depends when that comes to light, I think. If they had been found beforehand, then I guess not. I'm not an expert, so I can't answer that question. But if you would like to put that question, I can put it to the experts. But I guess someone who's tested positive before the games, it depends on a whole range of things. It's very difficult to talk in the abstract about abstract cases, but it depends on a whole range of circumstances. But I guess if that was uncovered, that would probably be very unlikely. There I can't comment any further. Yes, sir, there.
Thank you. Reporter with China Daily. Questions for Yanis. A quick follow-up here. These games being the most watched so far in China, you had any figures or statistics or analysis on what are those sports maybe particularly attractive to the audience here in China or most watched in China, or watched more than other sports in China? You also mentioned about these games' strong presence on social media. Do you have any figures or information about that in China as well? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that this more detailed demographic information will start arriving, and we will have to respect broadcasters themselves to be releasing them as they want. What I can tell you is what we see on our own digital platforms, because even though they do not carry the games, they do reflect very, very much the atmosphere and what's going on in the competition itself. So I don't want to distinguish very much, but I think that it's pretty evident that Bigger and the Eileen Gu moment is a moment that has a huge media impact around the world, and obviously in China, but I think it's a worldwide phenomenon. It was an incredible competition, incredible narrative. The atmosphere was fantastic. I think the images were very good, and obviously Eileen Gu is an athlete that really will be one of the icons of these games. I'm very happy because we have been following her performance all the way back to Lausanne. She was the one that did the narration, the voiceover for the 1 year to go video that we produced with the Olympic Channel. So we're very, very close to her. I would say that the big figures and stars appearing in figure skating are also drawing huge attention. And then also Alpine, as it develops, it has many peaks. But I would say specifically for each market, because it depends also on the performance of the athletes from the market, I think that's more appropriate that each broadcaster start disclosing their figures. For me, the most interesting thing will be the shift that we will see towards younger audiences that we also registered in Tokyo, which is very encouraging for sports.
Thank you. Yeah, gentleman down there would like a question, and then the lady just in front.
Oh, hello, Anthony Germain with the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. My question is for Yanis. I was talking to some colleagues from Claro, Mexico City, and I was wondering, sometimes the Winter Olympics come under a bit of scrutiny because they don't appeal to every nation for obvious reasons. And I'm wondering if you have any ratings information for Central America, South America, and Africa.
As I said before, Timo and the ITMS team are collecting that. It's absolutely clear that there is a natural bias, I would say, in the Winter Games. You know, you're from Canada. For you, the Winter and Summer Games are almost equal, if not the winter more important. For many other countries, they don't have this development. We have 91 nations participating in the Winter Games. We have 206 participating in the summer edition. So this shows a divide. However, it's very interesting, and this is a trend that we already started noticing as of Sochi, more in Pyeongchang, far more here. You have interest, at least on the media level, from countries that traditionally would not even be watching the Winter Games. Some of them in Central Latin America, some of them from the Arab countries, and increasingly also from the African continent. This is a result of many factors. First of all, the wider distribution of signals and the wider options on digital for people to see and watch. Second, for the wider, it's a result also of globalization. Even though we live in a delicate moment because of the epidemic, there's no doubt that people communicate, understand, go study in different countries, or start picking up winter sports. And also, I would be particularly interested in the results in Mexico in these games. We have an incredible star, an incredible personal story with a Mexican figure skater, which I think is going to be one of the stories of the games, a story, of the huge fighter, that all the evidence would be against him becoming a figure skater, and will be one of the icons of these games. We will see more stories like that we have seen in the past with the bobsleigh teams from Jamaica and so on. And for me, this is exciting for the Winter Games not to stay with the traditional countries only.
Yeah, I can only concur with you on that. I've seen the story of the Mexican figure skater. It's an amazing story. Looking forward to seeing him compete. And I should just add, by the way, that the two countries or two national Olympic committees, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Haiti, have athletes here for the first time among those 91 countries. So, as Yanis
Greece
said,
has 5.
Greece has 5, so everyone's happy. Yes, lady here.
Thank you, Mark. My question is to Mr. Zhao, the spokesperson of the Games. According to the weather forecast, during this weekend, the temperature will drop, and also with the snow and rain. So in Zhangjiakou, will you reschedule some of the events? If so, what will be the events that you will reschedule? And also, since we have athletes-centric games, what specific measures do you have? Thank you for your question. We also noticed the weather forecast for this week. In the next few days, we may have cold air coming to the south, and in Beijing and the Zhangjiakou, we may even have small snow. So like Vice President Yang Shuan said about the weather, winter sports in itself is a challenge to the nature, but of course, at the same time, we have to respect nature and the rules of nature, and also try to guarantee the unscheduled competition of the games. But at the same time, we should safeguard the safety of and the health of the athletes and the staff. So we first of all try to, as much as possible, to provide accurate weather forecast. In Zhangjiakou, we have established a multi-dimensional and more accurate weather forecast network to realize more accurate weather forecast that is accurate by minutes. And also in different venues, we have weather forecasters.
These weather forecasters will timely share the weather statistics with the technical experts from IFs, and who will in turn determine whether it is necessary to reschedule some of the games or how. In general, the snow would not affect the regular schedule. If there should be extreme weather conditions, we'll coordinate with IOC, IFs, and OBS. We work together and to coordinate and to start the procedures for rescheduling the games to mitigate the negative impacts. We'll share this information on the official website and info system. You can follow closely. All the venues, in fact, are also getting prepared for the upcoming cold air and de-icing, de-snowing, and getting staff and vehicles ready for the coming snow. So we are having all these contingency plans. At the same time, I would like to remind all the journalists, if you should go to those mountain sites for your work, make sure you dress warmly. Thank you.
Yeah, gentleman there, and then lady behind. Yeah, gentleman.
Bonjour, je vais poser cette question en français. Je suis
I
Bruno
will ask this question in French. I come from Sport Business Point Club.
Les contenus qui sont,
I have a question about what is given to the broadcasters. Mr. Exarchos, you said that there were specifically for China some data and some elements that are some contents that are not given and not free.
Yanis, that's for...
No, I never said that.
No, I think it was just asking,
No.
but I think the answer is no.
No, the answer is no. I didn't say that. On the contrary, I said that, as you know, and as has been the commitment, we are all using unfiltered internet to do our job here. No, there's no data that is
Yes,
specific.
let's Phil Barker, and then we'll come to AP. Yeah, Phil.
Good morning, Kalimera Yanis.
Kalimera.
This is a question for you, sir. Two questions, actually. The first one is, you talk of all the digital platforms. Are you ever concerned that there's so much information that it's impossible for anybody to consume it on more than a very superficial level, because you've got so much out there? The other question is about, you were talking about having teams back at base being able to operate. For the commentators, how can they communicate the passion and the true Olympic values if they're not on site? I know from personal experience, it's a darn sight easier when you're in the stadium.
Thank you very much. Two very, very important questions. The first one is a more general philosophical question, because it doesn't have to do specifically about sports, and it has to do, with the multiplication of the offering of content and how can you help focus. I believe that it is an issue. What is for us important is to offer many different options and many different types of content, because people have preferences. I'm not saying that they prefer to consume only very short-form content, but we need to meet their needs when they want to consume short-form content, when they want to chat, but also when they want to sit back and enjoy a full competition. The approach that we are taking on the Olympic platform specifically is a very diverse one. So if you go to Olympics.com, you will see a diversity of content that you can choose. You can choose some of the best content I think that we produce is actually long form. We recently launched 2 long feature films. One is the story of legendary Peekaboo, the American skier, which is a story directed by Lindsay Vonn and Frank Marshall. It's her directorial debut. And Frank Marshall was a legendary producer Steven Spielberg, many films in Hollywood. And the other is the story about the unexpected win of the curling team of GB in Salt Lake City. These are clearly stories that you can immerse yourself, take your time, allow yourself to get into the narrative and understand the details. I totally share with you the concern that the overwhelming offering of content can sometimes be disorienting. I cannot say that it is a problem that collectively as media we have cracked on levels. Of course, there are more intelligent ways today of looking into content that's relevant to you, but I also agree that the over-profiling from the point of view of the platforms is a dangerous thing. To be fed only with the things that you expect will deprive of some of the nicer things that the internet world can offer. It is a wider problem for digital media. It's an important one. It's not specific to sports. What we have to do in order to promote the Olympic Games and make sure that everybody can reach out to the Games is to produce content for all possible platforms and all possible narratives. Regarding the question about commentators, it is true that the exact atmosphere in the venue can never be replicated. But also it is true that the investment from many operators or many broadcasters to bring all the commentators for all the sports in the host city is a very big one. Maybe not everyone has this capability. So what we are trying to do as host broadcaster is to provide them with as many possibilities as we can to simulate this operation remotely, provide them real live data to understand what's going on in the field of play, alternative views, alternative options from the venues to understand it better. There's no doubt that the elements that have to do with physical presence are the ones that need to survive. So having journalists doing interviews in the venues, yes, this is something that needs to remain there. Having commentators, yes, I believe that. I would say that having directors directing needs to stay there and producers. But it's not the same for other functions of our business where you do something in an enclosed space for 25 days. You might as well do it in the other part of the world today. So that is a choice that you need to make. Ourselves, we have many people operating remotely in these games, but they are not our directors. They're not the ones who are producing content. It's other functions which are supportive.
Thank you, Yanis. We're coming up to the hour mark, so this is probably the last question. Steve, if you want to, yeah.
Stephen Wade, AP. Mark, Yanis was just talking about all the content we have, all the production we're having, and yet the big story this morning is about this case, this legal case that you can't talk about. Is it concerning to the IOC that these sort of issues, 3 or 4 days into the games, already take precedent in this press conference? Legal issues, cases about doping, when you want to focus on the sports?
Yeah, I think the vast majority of people at home are following the sport, enjoying the sport in their different countries. Sadly, we can't have all the spectators that we would like here, but I think generally speaking, and even if you look at the coverage in newspapers, it's generally about the sport, which is what people want to hear about. We don't want to hear about the other stuff, but it arises, it's life, and so has to be dealt with properly, has to be dealt with in a proper, transparent way, a legal way, and we will deal with it, and we will deal with it as quickly as possible. But I think it shouldn't, and it doesn't take away from the magic of the games, which I think the vast majority of people, when I speak to my mother last night, they are loving the games. People are loving watching the sport, and that's what these games are about. It's about sport. So, yeah, we do our best. And thank you very much, everyone. That's a wrap, I think, and we are back tomorrow again. And we're going to talk about legacy tomorrow, because there's a considerable legacy. I think 5 5 of the venues here are from 2008. There's a lot of legacy going forward. So thank you very much indeed, and I will see you again for another hour of fun and games at 11 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. 谢谢。